everyone. Welcome back to the Real Estate Red Zone, brought to you by the Real Estate Center at Texas A&M University. I'm Haley Reeder, Communications Specialist. Thanks for tuning in. Today is Wednesday, May 29th, 2019. On this day in 1939, that's exactly 80 years ago, the Texas State Soil Conservation Board was organized to implement state conservation laws and organize and assist soil conservation districts across the state in response to the devastating Dust Bowl of the 1930s. The state headquarters was established in Temple, and a 5-member board served as the agency's policy-making body. 16 soil conservation districts were organized by 1949. In 1965, the agency's name was changed to the State Soil and Water Conservation Board. Over the years, the board has coordinated a variety of programs. In cooperation with other conservation and agricultural agencies, over 1 billion feet of terraces have been constructed to prevent soil erosion. The board also works with the Railroad Commission to examine and care for areas affected by mining operations. By 2003, the number of conservation districts in Texas has grown to 216. Baylor University, the Dr. Pepper Museum, the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Even with so much to offer, Waco has only recently emerged as a hotspot for homebuyers. And it would be pretty easy to give credit to a certain popular home renovation show, looking at you, fixer-upper, but not so fast. Other factors are at play. Waco's housing market began taking off around the start of the decade. Since then, sales volume has climbed steadily without any major bumps or boosts. Visible market pressure appeared in 2012 with falling for-sale housing inventories. There was a major drop in active listings from 2012 to 2016 for reasons that are a little unclear. That decline came right before the rise in buyer demand, which started around 2013. During that time, homes began to sell faster, as evidenced by shorter marketing periods, and they were selling at closer to the original list price. Overall housing prices, including price per square foot, started to rise by late 2013, and they haven't shown any recent signs of slowing down. Real Estate Center Senior Data Analyst Joshua Roberson took a closer look at the metro in Waco's Wild Rise, a Tierra Grande digital first. He joins us today to talk more about the housing market in the heart of Texas. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So what made you want to take a closer look at Waco, and what makes this market unique?
Well, I think particularly a lot of the other researchers who do traveling and speaking engagements can agree that if we had $1 for each time we've been asked about Waco and the show Fixer Upper, we would have a lot more funding. So part of it was just simply demand. It was just time. But the other thing is also we have a monthly research meeting where we review all the Texas markets, and Waco is one of those markets that we've seen consistent, impressive price growth. And so again, in terms of what's happening throughout the state, Waco was fairly unique. So that's why.
And was there anything in the data while you were doing your research that surprised you?
In terms of housing, not so much, which may be disappointing for some people to hear. However, having analyzed so many other Texas markets, what's happening in Waco in terms of the sudden rise in sales volume, price, property tax, increases, all this stuff. This is happening all throughout the state. So, again, Waco's not necessarily unique in that fashion, maybe the magnitude, but the things that were interesting to me were more the demographics, and the attempt was to kind of see why when you have so many people moving to an area, you want to take a look at who's moving to the area, and maybe that can kind of explain what's going on, driving some housing price segments. And so that was particularly interesting. A few that were touched upon in the article were just kind of the increasing presence of kind of the 60s and above age cohort. We don't have a lot of explanation as to like the why. We just have the numbers that there was a change or was an increase. in terms of like workforce participation, household ownership, just total population. And then the other thing, and I think we had discussed making a chart about this, but over the past 10 years, Waco's actually, their median age is actually now lower than Austin, which Austin's a huge city, but for the most part, it's also a fairly young city when you compare to the others. And sometime over the past, I'd say 5 years or so, I haven't the chart, but the median age for Waco actually turned out being even younger. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I know that Waco is a college town, with Baylor being there. But I was a little intrigued by that.
Yeah. And speaking of Baylor, how does Baylor affect the Waco economy and specifically the housing market?
So Baylor's definitely a driving force behind why Waco has a young population base. In terms of how it influences the housing market, of course, you have, rental demand. You have, with the presence of athletics, you have, retail and hospitality. So in terms of dividing that out with other things, it's hard to tell, but it definitely makes its mark.
And now let's rewind about a decade or so. How did the Great Recession affect Waco?
I mean, Waco fared about as well as, every other city in Texas. I mean, definitely took a hit in terms of unemployment, going up. Job growth, for the most part, stagnated. Income growth stagnated a bit. What I think is probably more interesting is that, particularly with the latest oil bust, Waco is one of those cities that didn't really retract much or even at all with, mid 2014 when oil started to fall. It just kept on chugging away. So, that's pretty interesting. But in terms of the Great Recession, I mean, everyone was kind of in the same boat, in terms of how it impacted them.
And let's go back to the question that started it all. What is the impact from the show Fixer Upper, and were you expecting a greater or lesser impact on the market?
Yeah, so here it is. So, it's really hard to separate the show's impact from other economic events. I tried my best not to just automatically assume that it was because of the show. My gut feeling is that, of course, it made an impact, but a lot of the impact may have been through things like tourism, retail, just general appeal to the area. Keep in mind, and I think I touched on this just a moment ago, that a lot of the housing trends have been occurring throughout the state. And of course, you take a look at, for example, Lubbock, where you see a lot of sales volume and price growth. As far as I know, there's no TV show in Lubbock, right. So you can't really say that was it. A lot of these trends, like I said, they're happening all throughout the state. So some of it's just general economic well-being of the state. Where the line is, where how much can be attributed to the show, how much not. That's just too hard to tell. I do think it was interesting. We had done a Facebook poll, which it's not scientific. It was just more kind of get a general pulse of what people's sentiments were. And I did find it was interesting how many people had thought that the show had a very good positive impact on the economy. Again, things like tourism, retail, things like that. But a negative impact on housing. And again, I don't want to give the show too much credit, good or bad. A lot of the sentiment and feedback that we got regarding the negative impact on the show, again, are things that a lot of homeowners are kind of disgruntled about throughout the state. Rising property taxes, general lack of home ownership. So I had mentioned this in the article that how while the show definitely has made its mark, I think the big thing is that, people just have kind of faces to associate the general housing market. Yeah. So, and then also there's other things, going back to Baylor. I'm kind of making this assumption. So like here in College Station, we had the Kyle Field renovation, and that definitely boosted a lot more tourism to the area. There's a lot more tailgating, things like that. And I've heard that, course, with the new stadium in Waco, that a lot of that has also occurred. So again, I want to give that credit. That's going to make an impact, more people coming out. And of course, when you have successful sports teams, that's going to draw people. There's going to be a lot more free publicity. The enrollment numbers did increase during that time. So, but again, without repeating myself too much, it's hard to divide the line, like who gets credit for what. So it's a total package.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, right? Just riding the wave. So,
all right. Well, thank you for joining us today.
All right. Thanks for having me.
If you'd like to read more, check out Josh's article, Waco's Wild Rise. The article will be in the July issue of Tierra Grande magazine, but if you can't wait, you can read it on our website now. The link is on our podcast webpage and in the YouTube description box below. You can also email Josh directly by clicking the Mail To link right below. Throughout these next few weeks, we'll be posting more Tierra Grande articles on our research library. Topics include flood protection technology, homeownership affordability, the effects of subprime lending, estate planning tools, and real estate disputes. Check out our research library for all that, plus our several serialized economic reports. Our 4 monthly and 1 quarterly reports discuss different facets of the Texas economy, including border economic health, statewide housing market data, employment, general economic well-being, and commercial real estate. You can also subscribe to these reports so you're always up to date on the latest data. That's going to be it for today. If you want more from the Real Estate Center, follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. You can also check out our website. That's www.recenter.tamu.edu for the latest data, research articles, blog posts, news, and more. Thanks for joining us today in the Real Estate Red Zone, brought to you by the Real Estate Center in College Station, Texas, where we've been helping Texans make better real estate decisions since 1971. This is Haley Reeder, signing out. See you next time. Bye.